Welcome to St Martin in the Fields, and welcome to Great Sacred Music. A very special welcome to those joining us for the first time and those joining us online. Cecil Frances Humphreys was born in Dublin in 1818 as a young adult member of the Church of Ireland. She came under the influence of the Oxford movement, especially John Keble, who fostered in her an Anglo-Catholic sacramental spirituality. At the age of 30 in 1848, she published Hymns for Little Children, which went through no fewer than 69 editions before the end of the century. Contained what were to become some of her most famous enduring hymns, including All Things Bright and Beautiful, There is a Green Hill Far Away, and Once in Royal David's City. She used the profits from her celebrated hymn book to support the Derry and Raphoe Diocesan Institution for the Deaf and Dumb in Strabane. She was also involved with the Derry Home for Fallen Women and worked to develop a district nurse service. So quite a social activist and reformer in addition to being a hymn writer. She caused consternation in her family, and rightly so, by taking up with and marrying William Alexander, a Church of Ireland clergyman and poet who was 6 years her junior. Have you ever heard anything like it? Hence the name by which she's better known, Mrs. C.F. Alexander. William went on to become Bishop of Derry and Archbishop of Armagh in 1867, only adding to his wife's fame. We're going to begin, as we always do, with a hymn. If you'd like to find the sheets you took on your way in, those of you in the building, and turn to the second page. Mrs. Alexander described the calling of the first disciples in her hymn, Jesus Calls Us, or the Tumult. It was written for St. Andrew's Day and has her characteristic style of calling us to imitate the great figures of the Bible. We must set aside the things of the world and put Jesus above all things. We remain seated and the voices stand and lead us as we sing Jesus Calls Us, or the Tumult. Cecil Frances had no children of her own, but she took seriously her responsibilities as a godparent, as I'm sure many of you do. This is how to be a godparent. What you do is to write hymns for each article of the Apostles' Creed. When she did this, they became some of her best-known works. The second article of the Creed, who was conceived by the Holy Spirit, born of the Virgin Mary, became the celebrated Once in Royal David's City. There is nothing in her original composition to say that the first verse must be sung in the dark by the youngest boy in the choir. That is not obligatory, although it has become so in the intervening 150 years. This hymn locates the incarnation between creation and the second coming of Christ and draws, as many of her hymns do, somewhat dated moral conclusions from Jesus' obedient childhood. And we're going to hear a setting by Will Todd, contemporary composer from County Durham, best known for his Mass in Blue and a frequent collaborator with us here at St. Martin's, once in Royal David City.
David City.
It's hard to think of a Victorian figure who more sums up what Victorian Christianity stands for than Mrs. C.F. Alexander. And that's nowhere more so than in her hymn about the cross, "There is a green hill far away." This always meant a lot to me as a child because I grew up between Bath and Bristol, and those of you who know the West Country will know that there's a hymn just on the outskirts of Bath called Kelston Tump, which is about an hour and a half's walk away. And on Good Friday, we used to go to the morning service, and then we would walk to this clump of trees on a green hill, which was far away, and I could see from my bedroom window. And it's only actually in later adulthood, I'm out of an age where I can actually use the phrase later adulthood now, that I've realized that my whole idea of Good Friday was encapsulated in that view from the bedroom window and the green hill far away, and it all goes back to Mrs. C.F. Alexander, and I don't think I'm unusual. But what's so distinctive about this, perhaps most distinctive of all of her hymns, is that it combines an astonishing theological facility in summarizing the doctrine of the atonement, how Jesus makes us right with God, differently understood in different centuries by different theologians through his dying on the cross, but never loses that undertone of moral intent that makes us better boys and girls. Well, you, of course, are already better boys and girls, so you don't need to worry about this. But for those who aren't, lines like, "He died that we might be forgiven, he died to make us good." You see how there's the theological and then that very moral undertone. He died to make us good, that we might go at last to heaven, saved by his precious blood. But actually, it's the last verse that brings together her spirituality, her theology, and her moral undertone. "Oh, dearly, dearly has he loved, and we must love him too, boys and girls, and trust in his redeeming blood, and try his works to do." You never get away from the moral undertone with Mrs. C.F. Alexander. Let's enjoy Herbert Sumsion's setting of "There is a Green Hill Far Away." The first words of the Apostles' Creed are, I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, and in the hands of Mrs. C.F. Alexander, these became all things bright and beautiful. Of course, we love the purple-headed mountain coming from Ireland. No doubt that was a heather-covered hill for Mrs. C.F. Alexander. But you may know that the original version that she wrote, published in 1848, also contained the more controversial verse, "The rich man in his castle, the poor man at his gate, God made them high and lowly and ordered their estate." Rhymes very nicely, but less fashionable today, which makes you realize and remember that another work, apart from Hymns for Little Children, that was published in 1848, was Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto. Interesting that. And when you say, I think Karl Marx was a bit carried away with religion's the opium of the people, and the philosophers have tried to interpret the world, the point is to change it. You only need to look at Hymns for Little Children and see how class-ridden was the spirituality of none other than the great Mrs. C.F. Alexander to say that Karl Marx really did have a point. Anyway, we're going to hear Stopford's setting of Mrs. C.F. Alexander's All Things Bright and Beautiful now. Now, it's time for us all to sing again, if you'd like to take the sheets that you have with you. Mrs. C.F. Alexander didn't just write hymns for children. In fact, if she'd never written hymns for children, she might have an entirely different reputation as one of the great hymn writers for people of all ages. And we're going to sing perhaps her greatest hymn together now. There's a thing to bear in mind is that congregations do tend to sing this in such a way that there's time to have a nap between verses. It is notorious for running aground, so we're all going to be quite brisk today. The tune was written by Charles Villiers Stanford, and it's important to remember, and I think sociologically it's really fascinating to remember that both Stanford and Mrs. C.F. Alexander were Irish, but neither of them thought being Irish meant they couldn't be British. Stanford came from Dublin, Mrs. Alexander came from Derry, but they didn't think they came from a different country from each other or from where we're sitting right now. So St. Patrick's breastplate were words probably written in the 8th century, attributed to St. Patrick during his work in Ireland in the 5th century. And a man called H.H. Dickinson, Dean of the Chapel Royal at Dublin Castle, said that he wrote to Mrs. Alexander suggesting that she should fill a gap in our Irish church hymnal by giving us a metrical version of St. Patrick's lorica, a Gaelic word for breastplate. And I sent her a carefully collated copy of the best prose translations of it. Within a week, she sent me that exquisitely beautiful as well as faithful version, which appears in the appendix to our church hymnal. Sounds very quaint, but it's actually a magnificent hymn, and it's partly magnificent, not just because it brings one of the great treasures of the early centuries of the church at a very wild time in either the 5th or the 8th century, depending on your view of when it was written. But it's a magnificent hymn for bringing profound Christian theology into the spirituality of our daily lives. It's a beautiful hymn in bringing together both faith and theology. We remain seated. The voices stand and lead us as we sing, I bind unto myself today.
I bind unto myself
coming towards the end of Great Sacred Music for this week. If you've enjoyed yourself, I hope you have. There is an opportunity to make a donation on your departure. There's a suggested donation of £5, but you are absolutely welcome to add a couple of zeros to that. Nobody will think less of you for doing so, and that could help keep this great tradition going for another 1,000 years. Now, we're going to hear another one from her collection of the Apostles' Creed. This is written for Easter Day. Christ is, I should have said, next week we're doing Julian of Norwich, so you don't want to miss that. So if you've flown in from San Francisco, fly back. So don't miss Julian of Norwich, that will be a real treasure. So, Easter Day, and this also comes from her collection of hymns on the Apostles' Creed. From a very early age, she loved to write poems. She was nearsighted, timid and shy. Aged 9, her father noticed a lump under the rug in her bedroom. Lifting the rug, he discovered a hidden stack of papers with carefully handwritten poems. He took a large wooden box, cut a slot in the top. He instructed Fanny that each time she wrote a poem, she should drop it into the box through the slot. On Sunday evenings, her father would open the box and read each new poem aloud, while members of the family gathered to listen. By the age of 25, her poetry would be known and quoted throughout the British Empire. It doesn't get better than that. Thanks for joining us.